All right, Sistas fans. Now, I believe I gave last night's episode the same score as the Oval, even though I think the Oval is slightly better, but this has some elements to it too. Nurse Erica. Wow. All right, Season 8, Episode 17, Call Me By His Name, gets a 7 out of 10. Going to be real here. I am very, very wary of seeing what the ratings were for last night's episode because even though I thought it was a decent episode for what it was, it didn't do much to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Move the needle to the point of, okay, yeah, all right, now this show is back on track. I know the ratings are going to be through the roof. This is kind of a episode. In my live stream, I did praise it in some ways because this episode should have been what last week's was. Here's what I mean by this. An episode setting things up where the pieces on the chessboard are moved into place for the big play. Remember, one of my complaints last week was when it seemed a particular storyline was moving forward, everybody would get a text or call from Andy to come over to the penthouse. And we just had to stop everything and move everybody to the penthouse. And I'm like, okay, that sucks, but maybe they'll get to. I kept looking at the clock. Okay, it's 9:55. Like, when is this happening? And I thought at the end of the episode, everybody would have arrived. And then in the next episode or last night's episode, the first like 10, 15 minutes would have been that sister circle thing. Because it just felt so rushed last week. And this episode did things the right way by slowly getting things together for big payoffs next week, allegedly. Like, for example, we had the setup earlier in the episode of Jordan and Andy unknowingly arriving at the same restaurant as Penelope and Robin. And instead of shoehorning any sort of tension with them talking to each other being in the last 3 minutes of the episode, they just set it up so that gets picked up next week. See where I'm going with that? It makes more sense that way. But I think this episode, I'm tired of talking about how tired I am of the Gary stabbing mystery because they're just going to drag this thing out to the last possible moment, and it's not that strong of a story. If this was a 5 day a week, 5 daytime soap episodes per week, basically like 20 episodes a month, you can stretch it out. But when it's only one episode per week, where it's like, 11 episodes, then a hiatus, and then another 11 episodes, it's not that strong of a story. But Gary is starting to get back some of his memory because I did like the fact that we got a flashback to season 7 where Hudson was doing his dirty work, with Penelope's life insurance policy. So Gary does have memory defects right now. These flashbacks, in my mind, prove it. He is slowly re-emerging in terms of his mental state. We see a lot of classic Gary elements in this episode, particularly with Nurse Erica. So, turns out, my theory was right. At first I'm like, if you look at the trailer where Hudson's sitting on the bed with Gary, it's like, oh, is he going to make a move? But it's like, no, it's just like a smug power play of, oh, forget about Andy. I'm the one who's going to protect you. I'm the one who's never going to hurt you. Because Gary's still freaked out about being restrained, and Hudson reminds him, like, look, I'm your friend, Gary. And then you remember, wait a minute, you've worked for me. You work for me. Yeah, and I'm your friend. I want to make sure that nothing happens to you because I'm the one that had you sedated because after Agent Watt was in here, you just started losing your mind. Now, he takes that towel to try to wipe the sweat off his forehead, and then he just leaves. And strangely enough, gone for the entire episode because I'm like, seriously? He's not around to see Nurse Erica get all that stuff? But I might as well just go ahead and discuss this stuff because they did a sneak peek and I did a video on it already. But basically, we got this attractive nurse who is checking in on Gary. And he asks, like, hey, have you heard about me? It's like, yeah, I heard you're like a wealthy businessman. And I haven't really, done much to kind of look up your history and whatnot. All I know is like you were stabbed on your wedding night because, hey, I got all these student loans. I'm over here working these long shifts, so I got to do what I got to do. And he offers to pay for her student loans if she helps him out. Hey, can you get me out of these restraints or loosen them up? Can you get my clothes and my phone and whatnot? And when she does come back with those things, she's like, are you really going to pay my student loans? Because I can get a lot of trouble for this. And I'm thinking to myself, but didn't you get caught on hospital footage? But then I'm thinking about, this is the same hospital where Gary managed to slip out of there, full hospital gown. Nobody questioned him. Nobody stopped him. He just took one of those, electronic bikes and then booked it. What the heck? So from there, he calls Hayden because like, wait, Hayden's my friend. He can help me out because at this point he's kind of on his own. So we briefly go over to the bank yet again. We had a sneak peek of this, so I don't really need to go into full detail. But yeah, it was a pretty good scene between Paige and Maurice, and they're pretty much, no pun intended, getting on the same page here because there is an older white woman who comes into the bank with a huge jar of pennies. I think they're all pennies. I'm just going to say coins. Basically, she has a lot of coins that she needs exchange for cash for a church group that's going to the casino this weekend. And Maurice pretty much says like, hey, we do have a coin machine, but you have to be a customer to use it. Do you have an account with us? No. Well, here are these rollers. You can go roll them and we can do the exchange then, but can you roll them for me? Yeah, I mean, if you could just roll them, that'd be great. And she doesn't want to open an account. And it gets to the point where pleasantries and manners go out the window because she's under the assumption that he doesn't want to roll all those pennies for her due to the fact that he's gay. And then she goes on this whole homophobic rant about, oh, we gave you the right to marry each other, but that's not enough. And I'm sick of the alphabet warrior stuff being plastered everywhere. And Paige steps in to try to help. And it gets to the point where when the woman does want to open up an account, she still insults Maurice. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Our bank doesn't do business with homophobes. And she leaves. And Maurice is like, wait, did we just have a moment? Yeah, my brother's gay, but it's all good. I just hate seeing closed-minded people like that. And then they start getting along. Sabrina comes in and she's surprised that these two are not killing each other. And Maurice notices something's off of her because, she's usually in some drama. And then that's pretty much it for that particular scene. Sabrina then goes over to her office and Pam calls Sabrina to get a follow-up on the business plan. And it hasn't been worked on just yet, which is weird because I thought that Sabrina said that she was doing a preliminary plan, which she already did. And then from there, it would be up for Karen and Pam to do the rest. But apparently, that's not the case. They're putting it all on Sabrina. So, okay. And in the midst of the conversation, Pam's like, oh, girl, something's wrong. I can tell in your voice. And then Sabrina is like, oh, you want to listen? So she goes on about the sperm situation. But it turns out Pam had her on mute the entire time because she was doing some work. Believe it or not. And Sabrina's like, well, Pam, I think you did help me out because it just felt good to say that stuff out loud. Well, I guess it is true. Echo chamber. Not to mention, it's like people who journal, like myself. Sometimes it's best to just get the stuff out of your system because maybe when you hear yourself talking out loud, your situation isn't as difficult as you originally thought it was. Go figure. But going back to the bank, some people during the live stream were like, oh, this scene was a bit over the top. Like nobody would go on a tangent like that. And I'm thinking like, what world do you live in? And not to get political, but I'm telling, from my own experiences in terms of, just being black in America and whatnot, during the previous Trump administration and even during the current one now, but more so during the previous one, you just felt like when he was in office, based on his just, speeches and tweets and whatnot. And like I said, I'm not trying to get political. I'm just making a point via real life experiences. I just noticed people in my life, really feeling ballsy, saying things that they never said during any other administration. And I'm like, you know what? One thing I'm thankful for that he's in office is due to the fact that it allowed me to finally see the true colors of a lot of people in my life. So when I think about this woman going on these tangents, that tangent with Maurice, it isn't just about who's in office and how some people feel like they can just say what's on their mind. I also look at it from the perspective of, wow, older people don't have a filter, and that's really not surprising. I mean, it doesn't matter your color, gender. When a person is a certain age, oh, they're gonna, be extremely rude and disrespectful. That is true, and that's not for every old person, but it is true of a lot of them. So I'll leave it at that. But we get to probably my least favorite scene of the episode. We're over at the juice shop, and Rich is, venting about freaking out over Damani at the bank, and Jordan's like, wait, so you didn't even talk to Sabrina? You just saw her at the bank with Damani? Yeah, man. She was no doubt, calling him up, asking to be the donor. But doesn't he work at the bank at some division? Yeah, he's like PR or something. Didn't you tell me he wrote the article about Sabrina? So how do you know if he was there for that? See, I was like last week, I'm like, oh, Rich, he was standing outside of that door, so he probably heard a good part of the discussion between the two, where maybe he missed the part about Damani telling Sabrina about the summit that she's going to represent the bank at, and he only overheard the sperm stuff. But no, apparently this guy just showed up at a random moment in the conversation, assumed that Sabrina called Damani over to discuss the sperm thing, and then he flew off the handle. Man, he is a man-child. Like, don't get me wrong, I still feel bad for him in some aspects, but for him to fly off the way he does, and let's be real here, this isn't just reserved for Rich, this goes for a lot of the characters in the show, but this is just bad. And then he has the nerve to tell Jordan, I know you aren't judging me in my situation, telling me to go talk to Sabrina because I made an assumption about Damani. Why don't you go talk to Andy? And I'm thinking, and Jordan said what I said, those situations are not alike. Kind of like you fans who always go, oh, Jeremy, how dare you compare Fatima to Karen? That's like apples to oranges. Well, the same is true of this comparison here. There are so many differences. So many. Mainly with the Andy one involving criminal behavior and stuff like that from Gary versus, oh, my sperm doesn't work. Enough said. But Andy has my favorite Andy moment of the season. Probably one of my favorite Andy moments since the show came back with the new writers. And that's her in her penthouse on her phone. She's calling up Mr. Jones. I'm assuming this is one of the partners. She's calling, I believe, Benson. I think she's calling an assortment of the partners at the firm and a bunch of her previous clients, reminding them who she is, what she's done for the company, and getting the support of these individuals. This is what I've wanted, and that's one of the reasons why, even though I felt I enjoyed the Oval more, Sistas had moments like this that maybe give it a couple extra points. This was fantastic. This was fantastic. You could tell, obviously, Marie's, thread at the end of the last episode put a fire under Andy's behind. Look, you got a week, and if you aren't at the top of the firm, you're done. I'm ruining your reputation. I'm taking my business elsewhere. So that's pretty, enticing. But yeah, just seeing Andy doing this was great. So Jordan interrupts her groove, calling to meet up to talk. And Andy's, like, look, I ain't got nothing to say to you. And honestly, I don't blame her. But he eventually whittles her down to the point of, okay, we'll go to somewhere neutral. And Billy Jakes, and she's like, fine, I'll meet you there. And lo and behold, Penelope and Robin are there as well. Turns out that, Penelope is just basically going on an Andy rant because she wants to know about what Andy did to Robin. And he just says, well, it was just mainly Gary. But it wasn't just Gary. It was the whole thing about Andy and Robin were an interesting dynamic, but at the end of the day, you knew that Andy's heart was with Gary the whole time. Robin was just a placeholder to make Gary jealous until you could almost argue that Andy was using Robin until Gary got right, kind of like Karen did with Aaron until Zach got, his act together. That's pretty much what it was. But the moment that Robin told her off about sleeping with the janitor, that's when she got butthurt. That was the moment any sort of potential relationship these two had was gone out the window. But when it comes to the conversation, it just goes to, yep, there it goes. Andy manipulating people like she always does. I bet she did to you what she did to me, where her and Gary double teamed me and try to manipulate me and my brother to, ruin our lives. And then the more she talked, Robin was saying what I've been saying. It's like, wait, so what is it? So initially you said Andy and Gary were working together, but then you're telling me that Andy opted to get you and the baby out of the picture so she can have Gary all to herself. But I need to remind you that Andy was the one who set things into motion to protect you from Gary, to put you in a witness protection, to uncover a lot of harsh truths about his past, to entice you to go, hey, this guy is a bad news. I need to get away from him for the sake of me and my baby. But you're the one who chose to go over there, and then that's how you lost your kid. I mean, he doesn't say that exactly, but you knew that's where he was going. And I like this because of the fact that it reflects last week, where Marie said to Andy what Robin said. I need you to take some accountability for your life crumbling being the result of your own actions. What did she say? F you, Robin. Marie says the same thing. She's like, oh, wow, you're right. I mean, my girls have been telling me that for a long time, but I've been ignoring them. And when it comes to Andy trying to tell Penelope this, Penelope tried to get up in her face again, like, say something about my baby again. And it's like, no, I'm telling you the truth. You're the one that chose to go over there and you got attacked. And then Robin saying this, it's almost like she kind of was coming around, but she just looked at Robin like, I don't know. I think the reason you're defending Annie and whatnot is because she's still in your heart. And it's like, eh. But then we get towards the end of the episode and she like notices I guess like an eyelash or something, and she picks out of his eye and goes make a wish. And the moment that Andy and Jordan show up to the restaurant, Penelope notices them, and then she starts caressing Robin's face, and it's like, oh man. So I'm thinking something was kind of there between the two. Penelope was kind of falling for him, but she put on the flirtation and charm the moment Andy came into the restaurant to make her jealous. That's essentially what that was. And also Robin was trying to remind her, like, look, you really don't have a lot of options here in terms of who to trust, because she's convinced she can trust Josh or Agent Watt. But Robin makes it clear, if it wasn't for me, like, this is the same guy that was going to keep you locked up, because he's eager to close this case regardless as to whether or not the person behind bars is innocent or guilty. So Penelope is kind of falling apart, but I don't know. She definitely needs to go to therapy. But we only have a couple more scenes to talk about here. Yeah, Zach and Fatima didn't play a big role in the episode, but a lot of people are praising the scene because it wasn't really drama filled. So Fatima comes back and she gives Zach a recap on the sister circle, and Zach knows sounds like I'm going to preach here, quoting the Bible. When one or more sisters are gathered, his name is going to come up. And here's where I thought the episode was going with this. I'm like, Lord, Fatima, don't do what I think you're going to do. I thought, because she kept saying, oh, the meeting, the summoning, and the getting our butts in gear talk. At first, I wasn't receptive to it, but she made a lot of sense. Because I honestly thought she was going to be like, yeah, because Zach, you need to put me on a pedestal, because I just realized I do so much and put up with so much with you. That's what Marie made me realize. But no, she just said the sister circle was informative, inspiring, and I felt like, I could do anything as soon as I left. And then Zach starts quoting Whitney Houston, I'm every woman. And I'm not going to, wait. Hang on. Oh, thank goodness. Because for a minute there, I thought it was a Shaka Khan song. But wait, isn't it a Shaka Khan song? And Whitney Houston covered it? I think it is. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry if I'm ignorant. Because I know these artists very well and I love them. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Shaka Khan did the original and then Whitney did a cover. My bad. Brain fart right there. But yeah, these two had a good moment, and then it's a point of Zach coming up with the idea. Look, we just got to toss Watt this footage of Tamara and Hayden. So I'm assuming when Fatima got the passcode for Hayden's phone, they were able to unlock his cloud and get this stuff. That's the only off screen. So then they come up with a plan, I believe, to go over to Hayden and Tamara's place to try to get them to turn on each other. I don't really know what the plan here is, but it was just a good scene between them, so you hear no complaints from me. We go over to the airport. Tony standing by Danny's little kiosk there, and he says they need to talk. And Danny's like, look, we need to talk, but we're not going to do it here. We're not going to do it now because we got wandering eyes searching for any sort of like hiccup in our interactions to report us again. And she notices Leonard across the floor. So Tony says, okay, we'll meet up later. And then Leonard, comes over there and is all smug, and he admits to being the person that submitted the HR complaint and goes so far as to chastise Danny for her lack of professional behavior, coming in here every day smelling like weed and coffee. Danny's petty as I don't know what. So he pretty much like, I should have been in that leadership program. I'm the one who works the hardest. I'm here before, I'm here early and I'm the last one to leave. And I did like a 10-minute video talking about the scenario as to whether or not Danny should get fired for, splashing the coffee in his face. But then I thought about it and I'm like, if Leonard was really disqualified, why wasn't he put into the program to begin with? He has a grudge against Danny because she made it into the leadership program, but he did not, despite saying that he's the most qualified, he's the hardest worker. But why didn't you get in? Because I think, and I said this in the other video, a way to make this story more compelling and to have Leonard have more of a legitimate reason to be pissed off at Danny, say there's like a 25-person spot in this program and he got accepted to it. Maybe he was like, a last-minute entry before the deadline where maybe he was one of the last to find out because, maybe the airline contacts people via email or invites them via a meeting to the office to, to learn who made it into the program. But Leonard is like, hey, we filled up all the other spots and the 25th spot, we took time to look at all the employees and we just like, you stood out. So you are in, sir. And then he's excited. But then at the 11th hour, he finds out that he got pushed out and Danny took his place because Tony, being the VP, remember, HR said, you pushed for Danny to get into this program after the deadline had already been, passed. So, yeah, it's like you kicked out somebody who deserved to be there by showing favoritism to Miss Danny here. So I feel like that would have been a better way to write Leonard in okay, this dude is a snake in the grass, but he has a legitimate reason to be mad at Danny, even though Danny herself isn't responsible for him getting kicked out of the program. That was all Tony. So yeah, it's just like at this point, what's going to happen now? Because Tony and the HR, person run over to see what's going on. But yeah, this was funny. He's like, oh, I got all these witnesses. You saw me. She assaulted me with this drink. Yeah. Okay, so the last thing to talk about is everything Karen related. So Ms. Lisa goes in on Karen, and to Karen's credit, she does tell her mom that, hey, Andy needed me, but she did say stay on speaker and she was going to call in all the other girls. But yeah, that's basically Karen. She doesn't want to be left out of anything. And when you think that Ms. Lisa is, finally going to, what? The gloves are off. Hard ass mama is here. But no, she's like, I got you a babysitter. But I did like how she said that when your babies arrive, you're going to be even more strict than I am. And I feel like that is such a mother thing to say. And I liked it because of the fact that, yeah, I mean, Karen, you keep ignoring the doctor's orders. But when your babies are here, you are going to go above and beyond to keep them safe, even though it might seem unreasonable to them. But yeah, the babysitter is Erin, and she made some kick-ass lasagna. Now, Pam, being who Pam is, Miss Lisa does not tell Karen about what went down in the shop between her and Trey, but she says, I'm going to go back to the salon because I just feel like Pam needs supervising on top of supervising. And Erin shows up and she's like, well, you know what? I'd like it if you stayed. So from there, he gets caught off guard by a kiss and is like, whoa, where is this coming from? Because I thought he was going to be like, Karen, I actually found somebody else. But no, he's like, how do I know this isn't about Zach and the fact that he's moved on to start a life with somebody else? And Karen's like, no. And that's pretty much the episode. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just double check my notes here. Oh yeah, Hayden and Tamara had a thing going on, and like I said, this was a sneak peek as well. He choked her briefly. He's just in his feelings about the whole situation involving Gary and the cheating and the continuity. I guess you could argue the show is self-aware. I'm not going to even try to explain it about, wait a minute, I thought y'all went to college together. No, I've known him since college. Okay, that kind of makes sense if you look at it from the perspective of Hayden knew Gary since college, aka as in I've known him since I was in college. But then you can't ignore their first meeting in season 2 when they clearly do not know each other. But I don't know. He just can't help but see himself in his mind Tamara with Gary whenever they're intimate. That's literally all that boils down to. I have nothing to add to this scene. Tamara looks fine. Enough said. And Hayden doesn't believe he's a narcissistic person, but whatever. Yeah. It's kind of like I did the sneak peek clip. I said, I'm sorry, folks. I have nothing to add to this scene. But in the promo for next week, it's like, did Hayden stab him? I don't know. We'll find out next week, but I doubt we will. So, with that being said, thanks so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.